Hello. My name is Cora Watkin, and I'm doing my film review on Schindler's List. It came out in 1993. Okay, so some background information on Schindler's List. So it's a true story of how a businessman named Oskar Schindler saved over 1,000 Jewish lives from the Nazis in the Holocaust. He had them work as slaves in his factory during World War II. Schindler's List is based on a novel by Thomas Keneally, and that was published in 1982. So the director of the film is Steven Spielberg, and he is just an absolute wonderful film director and is just absolutely amazing because he created two brilliant films in the same year. Jurassic Park and then Schindler's List. It's just so amazing that he did that in the same calendar year. And Spielberg, at 46 years old, won his first Oscar as Best Director for Schindler's List. Spielberg and Schindler's List never shied away from showing the audience the horror of the Holocaust and how gruesome and terrible the events were. Spielberg was able to create historical accuracy and able to somehow create a humanizing part to the story through the character Oskar Schindler. Spielberg conveyed the horrors of the Holocaust without being overly graphic. It was still very hard to watch because the gruesome scenes, there were like some parts, but I feel like it could have been so much more exaggerated. Okay, so the screenwriter, Steven Zalian, and the screenwriter was able to, what I feel like, balance a personal story with a historical aspect. The screenplay was very effective in building character and motivations and their motivations. The strategic use of turning points in the film effectively built tension. It just caught you on your toes. So this film was mostly shot in black and white besides the last 5 minutes. And the only other time you see color in this film is the little girl in the red coat, which there's a photo right there of her. And this just made them able to use color where they see fit. And the little girl, you can see, stands out because she's the only thing that has something red. And everything else is black and white. We see in the film that Oskar Schindler notices the little girl standing in the Jewish ghetto, and he later then notices her in a wheelbarrow getting tossed into a burn pile. So this is really sad because he notices her again. And this red coat draws the audience's attention to the girl because she's just so innocent and vulnerable to the chaos of the Holocaust. And it adds a level of, realism because it's a little girl. And so the cinematographer of this film is Janusz Kaminski. The cinematographer uses black and white, like I've said, which is a significant strategy in conveying the film's theme and enhancing the emotional impact of the story. Using black and white format while using like a close-up shot at like eye-level perspective creates a sense of like historical authenticity to the film because it's like we're in there and a part of this and seeing it firsthand. The scene of the little boy in the toilet, there's a photo right there. It just is particularly impactful to me because it shows just how desperate like these Jewish people were and how desperate these children were to hide. And just the lack of lighting symbolizes like the darkness and hopelessness he seemed to be experiencing. And so like the lighting in this film from being black and white was just like stellar because it just really made the film the way it is. And like the choices he used in lighting, like high contrast and low key lighting, creates like deep shadows and creates a sense of darkness, and just mirrors the absolute horrors of the Holocaust. And an example of like the contrast in the film noir style creates a brutality in the violent scenes. And an example I can think of when I watch this is the one-armed man, a Jewish man shot in the head in the snow, like the snowy street. And just like you see him on the ground and like the black blood just like spreads through like the white snow, and it just is very impactful because like there's such contrasting colors, and it just is like gut-wrenching. It's just so horrible. And then just like the lighting in the scenes, it just does an amazing job evoking emotions. So the main actor of this film is Oskar Schindler, played by Liam Neeson. And he is just portrayed as a complex developing character who I feel like goes through an existential crisis. And at the beginning of the film, you don't know whether or not he's good or bad or what kind of person he is, and it just leaves a lot of suspicion up in the air. He at the beginning was a greedy person of money, using money, bribery, and other tactics just to achieve his goals. He was also a womanizer and flawed. Schindler is a corrupt Nazi member who becomes an unlikely hero by saving 1,100 Polish Jews. He has mixed motives throughout the film and is initially driven by personal gain of becoming rich. And then he grows compassion towards his employees, and then ends up risking his life and his fortune to save his workers. And he ultimately put them on a list to protect them and to buy them from the Nazi Party and from the concentration camp. Liam Neeson acting was notable for his ability to portray such like a complex character. His expressions, his subtle body language, and dialogue conveys the character's evolving emotions and motivation. He does an amazing job at portraying the shift from selfish to selfless. And Stern is his assistant, so Schindler in the photo is standing over Stern. And he is played by Ben Kingsley, and he is a Jewish accountant. He plays an important role in saving the lives of the Jewish people by managing Schindler's business. Ben Kingsley's performance creates like emotional depth to the film because him just walking by gruesome events and just having to keep going, and it's just a sense of strength and resilience in his role. What the part I found cool was he chose people who were deemed like non-essential in the fact like in the concentration camp, and he made them a job in the factory to protect them from being killed because if you're non-essential you can't work. That's just what they did. And he also helped Schindler write the names on the list of who to save and like save them from going to Auschwitz. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys a clip from towards the end of the movie where Oskar Schindler has told them that they'll be free at midnight, and he will be a criminal because he enslaved Jewish people, so he's going to go into hiding. And all of these Jews that he saved is surrounding him, and this is what he says to them.
I could have got more. switches. I could have gotten Pascal. There are 1,100 people who are alive because of you. Look at them. If I made more money.
So you see the emotion in this moment, and it's really disheartening, and you just see he's just like, I could have gotten more, like I couldn't gotten more, like him just thinking back to it. Okay, so some other important actors in this film is Amon, played by Ralph Fiennes, and is an SS officer in the concentration camp in Poland. I would describe him as a cruel, sadistic, and ruthless, and I just feel like he represents part of the Nazi party. In the photo, you see him next to Helen, which is his Jewish maid. He treats her cruelly and just like tortures her, and it's awful to see. However, his acting was just quite exceptional. Like his cold face and just the way he portrayed himself and his actions just made me really despise him, and I really didn't like that character. And like some of the stuff he does is like he shot like people, like Jewish people, off of his balcony for target practice, and they didn't do anything wrong. And Helen Hirsch, played by Embeth Davids, is a Jewish maid to Amon, and she portrays the character very well. By her expressions, by her body posture, you can just get a sense. You just sense a form of submission to him and vulnerability from the way she like has her head down and doesn't make eye contact and just has that posture. She had an interaction with Schindler in the wine cellar, and I got a sense that he felt bad for her and just wanted to save her from the situation, because later he asked Amon to if he can put her on the list and what that would take. And he ended up saving her, which was amazing. She said something to him that stood out to me, was like, oh, he will just shoot me any day. And Oscar told her like that she is special to Amon because he enjoys her too much, and that's why he wouldn't shoot you. And it's such a brutal reality, and it's like just that character in general, Amon, is just quite awful and just an awful human. Yeah. So the themes I noticed in the film was selflessness. So Oskar Schindler's transformation from his goal of becoming a war profiteer to becoming like the Jewish hero, because he literally changed his whole motives and everything just to save them, and he wasn't even worried about money anymore, like for him becoming rich. So I thought that was a theme. And then also the dehumanization of the film, just like the portrayal of persecution, and dehumanization of the Jews under like the Nazi regime. And just, I feel like the disregard for human life from the Nazis is just absolutely astounding. And just their like expressionless face when they like kill a Jew, and it's just like it doesn't even matter, like a whole life doesn't even matter. And it's just going into it, like, I don't know, as a Christian, it's just like, oh, like they were made in the image of God and they're all loved by him, and it's just so hard to see that they just don't care at all, and just their facial expressions, it's just like they don't even matter. And you can just see like the anger of the Nazi party and just towards the Jews and just how much they hate them. Yeah, and just like the power dynamics between them. So like the power is very unbalanced. The Nazi party in this film is definitely up here, and the Jews are definitely down here. And just the power is just really offset, and like Amon's power over his maid, Helen. And I feel like this film wrestles with good and evil. I think Spielberg does a really good job with this, and just showcases that there's like some good people in the Holocaust, like Schindler, who like saved like so many Jews, and then there's like these really awful people too. So just like him going back and forth on that, and just wrestling through that throughout the film. So it was really hard for me to find a weakness in this film, because just the film overall was just brilliant, and the only weakness that I like could think of is the film portrays all the Jews as passive individuals. And however, in the Holocaust, not all members were passive. So this could just be like a skewed view of the Jews. I feel like in the actual Holocaust, like there were people who stood up and weren't just passive, and like everybody was portrayed as. However, it was just beautifully done, this film, though. So this is the only one I can think of. So the impact of the film, and then my conclusion. I feel like it was shot like a documentary, and just touches on different elements of the war and the Holocaust. This film, I feel like everybody should watch it at least once. And it's just a powerful depiction of the Holocaust, like brutality. I feel like it creates a sense of public awareness for the Holocaust, and it's just a vital piece to show that it actually happened. And I feel like I've been hearing that like some people don't believe that the Holocaust happened, and this film helps ensure that the Holocaust won't be forgotten, because that would be really awful if it was forgotten. And at the end of the film, they added color, and it just showed us the real Schindler's Jews, placing stones on Schindler's gravestone out of respect. And it was just such a powerful moment, and it just like brought tears to my eyes, because it was like, wow, like these are actual people. This is not just a movie. I personally found the film at moments to be really hard to watch, but it's much needed to see, because it shows what went down in the Holocaust, and it just really tugs on your emotions and just really makes you feel for them, and just see how badly they were treated. I feel like it shouldn't be sugar-coated. It's just hard to watch, and I think it needs to be that way. I definitely like felt the emotions from the characters in the film, and throughout the film they did a really great job at getting the audience to feel what they want them to feel. And like throughout this movie, it did make me cry, and I don't normally cry in movies, but this is just such a gut-wrenching and just so impactful film. I definitely recommend people watch this film, because it's beautifully orchestrated, and the film kind of just tugs on your heart, or at least my heart.